Central Bank of Nigeria resolves 1,519 complaints and refunds 2.7 billion naira in 6 months. European Parliament backs Okonjo-Iweala's WTO job bid. IMF says Nigeria's debt to GDP ratio may hit 68%. And on Business Express today, Nigeria joining the membership of the International Coffee Organization in focus. Business Express is reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital, and I am Muplang Dakok. The Federal Executive Council (FEC) Wednesday approved the ratification of Nigeria's membership to the International Coffee Organization. The Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Niyi Adebayo, stated this while speaking with the State House correspondents at the end of the weekly FEC meeting.
President Muhammadu Buhari presided over the meeting, 29th in the series for the year 2020 and 28th to be held virtually since the outbreak of COVID-19, the global health emergency. The Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Niyi Adebayo, had told the Council that although Nigeria signed the International Coffee Agreement in 2008, it only maintained an observer status in the organization following the non-ratification of its membership. Consequently, the country has not been getting the benefits derivable from the International Coffee Organization.
Now that Council has approved the ratification, some of the benefits that will come to the country would include allocation of coffee development projects. We'll have access to finance for our farmers, and all these things we feel are things that will assist to improve the yield of coffee in Nigeria. We'll be actively involved in creating policies that will improve the trade of coffee.
Nigeria presently has an estimated 1 million people involved in the coffee value chain across the country.
To speak on the economic impact of Nigeria joining the membership of the International Coffee Organization is the President, Federation of Agricultural Commodity Association of Nigeria, Dr. Victor Iyama. You're welcome to Business Express, Dr. Victor.
Thank you.
All right, let's just go straight to our discussion. Back in the days, coffee was ranked as the highest international export commodity after petrol, of course. What is the situation today in Nigeria?
Well, today in Nigeria, just like some of our commodities, the production is very low. We're just trying to go back to production of coffee because really, if we do it right, it's just going to compete favorably with cocoa, because cocoa and coffee are the most traded agri-commodities in the world. And we in Nigeria too, we have a lot of states producing coffee. We produce mainly both Robusta and Arabica, which we're all looking forward to going back to it, because right now that we need foreign exchange, coffee is a major crop that can bring in a lot of hundreds of millions of dollars, if not even billions. So we're happy that it has been ratified, and just like the minister said, a lot of inflows and investments will come in both from home and abroad. So we are very happy. We have been looking forward to that. It has taken some years for it to be ratified. But now that it's been ratified, I'm sure in the next, let's say within 1-2 years, we will see a very, very, very big improvement in
All
coffee
right.
production.
It is observed that coffee, despite being cultivated in about 16 states in Nigeria, is still, a smallholder farmers' affair. Why don't we have large-scale state-sponsored cultivation?
Well, just like most crops and arable crops, even arable crops, is mainly smallholder farmers that are doing it. Of course, we have very few big plantations, but don't forget that these are traditional crops too to some people, and in most cases, you can have contagious farms where you have over 1,000 farmers at a cluster farming together. So it is not just about big plantations. It's about so many people having interest in it. Even if you have a big plantation, if you have just 1 or 2 people with big plantation, you can never compare. So when you have over 1 million people having their own 10 hectares, 5 hectares, 3 hectares, that is what really, even in this country, I've always said it. The people who are feeding our nation today are still the smallholder farmers because they are more and they're plenty. Yes, we can look into plantations, but the truth is, if we are talking of business, as far as we are concerned, because we're in it, we know that the smallholders are still the key for now.
All right. Can you tell us the price of coffee in the international market? How is the price like?
Well, for now, the price fluctuates just like cocoa price fluctuates every day. I've not checked it today because since we're not very, very active in it, we have not checked today. But I think as at the last time I checked, coffee was going for around $1,700 or so. It is it just like cocoa, it fluctuates. At times it fluctuates between 1,600 to 2,300, 2,000, just like cocoa. At times we could go as high as 2,500. But right now it's about 1,650, 1,007. I think the drive now is how to increase our coffee production because many farmers actually cut off their coffee trees when they were not really selling. But the Coffee Association of India spoke with their president and their secretary. And of course, we're geared up now towards growing coffee seriously. And like I said, there has to be concerted efforts for farms, all the states producing it, to make lands available and to an extent, even make some of the communities conducive. Some of the farming areas too, we look forward to people maybe putting in, even if it's just a 1-bedroom apartment. We have to really make farming environment very conducive for farmers. So many young people, so many of them have been trained, and they are looking forward to it. But with, of course, some fund of venture financing must go into it because funding is one of the major problems. And it is not 3 months, 4 months, 5 months crop. It's a tree crop. So we are looking forward to, I don't want to talk too much, but I believe that
All right.
a lot is going to be done in that
All right. Apart
direction.
from poor funding, we also have heard of issues of poor pricing and marketing. How have farmers been handling that, and how do we need to handle that situation?
Okay, fine. You see, why just like I said, just like cocoa, any product or crop that is on the terminal market, you see, there's an extent to which you can cheat any farmer. Because once it's on the terminal market, the farmers have the ideas of the pricing and they fix their price. It is unlike all other crops that are not on the terminal market. There's no way you can check. So the buyers will always blindfold you with the prices. But like coffee, cocoa, and all those traded on terminal markets, it's always very difficult for you to cheat any farmer. Very, very difficult, especially now with technology.
All right. Just 2 days ago, the Federal Executive Council approved ratification of Nigeria's membership of the International Coffee Organization. How can this boost coffee production for Nigeria?
Yes, it will boost it in a way, because now all other members, even the ICCO headquarters itself, we do the needful. We will also benefit from so many grants that are going to come through there. And a lot of the research works, though CRIN is also involved in the research work for coffee in Nigeria, but the international research works too will be passed on to us. We will stand to benefit, and I believe that most of the things we have been losing due to non-ratification of our membership, we will start gaining it, especially in terms of the new research, scientific works that have been done over the years. And of course, most importantly, funds and grants that is supposed to come through them will also come to us.
Okay, Mr. Iyama, just before I let you go, what do we need to attract coffee production, packaging, the whole value chain in Nigeria, being that, it is well known that Nigeria produces but doesn't consume coffee?
Yeah, well, just like that's also the problem in cocoa. We produce a lot, we consume less than 2%. You see, it has to be promoted because it has to become a culture. We have to, like that of coffee, I cannot start saying we should start promoting from primary school, because coffee is mostly taken by adults. We can make it a culture, but like that of cocoa, where they can start promoting it from primary school because of the level of caffeine in coffee. But of course, coffee is also medicinal, especially for adults. So it's a thing that we must promote. But I can even tell you, despite that, we still consume a lot of coffee, because go to most offices, you see coffee or tea being served. So to an extent, we consume it. And I believe that we will consume it more once we know monies are going to come into it. I'm really happy, exceptionally happy, because this thing has been ratified. And we have been saying, we've been telling government from our Greek crops alone, about just 10, we can be getting over $100 billion in this country, which will far surpass what we're getting from oil. So I'm happy that they are looking towards that direction.
All right. So with the approval of the ratification now, what are the other opportunities for coffee marketers, of course, and the farmers in Nigeria?
Well, the opportunities abound, but the first thing first, we have to go back to producing coffee, because we don't have much now. And like I told you, most of the farms have been abandoned. Some of the trees have been cut off. But with this, now I'm sure many people will go into it. The association is ready to do a lot. But you see, in a situation where
it seems we've lost Dr. Victor Iyama's audio. Thank you so much, Mr. Victor Iyama, for your time with us on Business Express, talking about coffee production. Gold prices dipped on Friday, weighed by a stronger dollar as investors kept a close watch on the final U.S. presidential election debate and sought further clarity on coronavirus aid package. Still talking commodity, oil prices held on to gains made on the previous session on Friday after Russian President Vladimir Putin indicated he would be prepared to extend record supply cuts in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic. Brent crude was off 1 cent at $42.45 a barrel, having risen 1.7% on Thursday, while U.S. oil was 2 cents lower at $40.62 a barrel, following a 1.5% gain in the previous session. Putin said on Thursday that Russia did not see a need for major oil producers to alter a deal on cutting global supply, but did not rule out extending oil cuts if market conditions warranted. And on the stock market, transactions on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange closed the last trading day of the week in positive territory. The NSE All Share Index rose by 0.47% to close at 28,697.06 basis points as traders exchanged 282.9 million shares valued at 4.4 billion naira in 2,942 deals. Market capitalization stood at 14.9 trillion naira. On the global scene, shares in Asia Pacific were mixed as investors in Asia monitor coronavirus developments. Over to Bosede Abel for details.
European markets advanced in early trading of 23rd October as investors monitored signs of progress towards a U.S. stimulus deal and the continuing resurgence of the coronavirus. Shares in Asia Pacific were mixed in early Friday trade as investors also monitored coronavirus developments. Shanghai Composite closed 1.04% lower at 3,278, while Hang Seng Index edged 0.46% higher as of its final hour of trading, and Nikkei rose 0.18% to close at 23,516.59. U.S. stock futures rose as Wall Street weighed the potential for additional fiscal stimulus, as well as news on the earnings and coronavirus treatment fronts. Dow Jones Industrial Average showed gain of more than 100 points. S&P 500 and Nasdaq 100 futures also traded in positive territory, while in Africa, the bulls set the pace for the day across the continent. Boss Day Able, Business Express.
The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, says it has resolved 1,519 banks' transaction complaints and refunded 2.7 billion naira to the customers from January to June this year. The Apex Bank says it received 2,051 complaints bordering on frauds, ATM card, electronic transactions, and excess charges from bank customers, from which the 1,519 complaints were resolved. The bank, however, calls the development of a definitive fraud policy to deter mistakes that could lead to employees aiding in fraud, along with fraud prevention strategies. And figures obtained from the Central Bank of Nigeria shows that currency in circulation rose by 56.44 billion naira in 1 month, from 2.369 trillion naira at the end of August to 2.426 trillion naira as at the end of September. The figure, which stood at 2.35 trillion naira as at the end of May, rose to 2.39 trillion naira at the end of July. The currency in circulation on quarter-on-quarter basis fell by 6.0% to 2.29 trillion naira at the end of March 2020, compared with a decline of 7.5% at the end of the first quarter of 2019. According to the CBN's monthly economic report for May, extensive cash reserve ratio debit on banks that failed to comply with the policy directives increased the monetary authority's liabilities to other depository corporations and increased reserve money in May 2020. On that note, let's see how the naira is exchanging for other international currencies. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, says the COVID-19 pandemic represents an unprecedented health and economic crisis for sub-Saharan Africa, but leaves projections largely unchanged for the region. Director Africa Department Abebe Selassie at the fund's press briefing for sub-Saharan Africa said the region is confronting policy constraints and hard choices.
Our growth expectation this year is broadly unchanged from June. We expect economic activity for sub-Saharan Africa to contract by 3% this year. No country has remained untouched by the crisis. The largest impact on growth this year will be on tourism-dependent economies, but oil exporting countries in the region, other commodity-intensive countries, have also been hit hard. And growth, even in the more diversified economies, will also be significantly impacted this year.
The recent crisis in Nigeria, he said, indeed, productivity has been affected and calls on government to step up efforts in meeting recovery plans.
Suffice it to say that, economic conditions in Nigeria, of course, for the last 4 years or so have been very difficult. In the wake of the decline in oil prices in 2015-16, since then, the growth has been quite anemic. There's been a lot of pressure on standards of living. So there has been this dislocation. As always, when you have these kind of economic difficulties, social protests are not uncommon. I think this is exactly why we've been, on the record in Nigeria about how really critical it is to get all of the policy-induced barriers out of the way to facilitate stronger economic growth, for the government to do more to raise revenues, to be, from non-oil resources, to be able to invest in health, education, which would allow people to be more successful at getting jobs, but also improve the economy's potential.
The IMF says limited resources will ultimately force difficult choices in sub-Saharan Africa as the region faces additional financing needs of $890 billion through 2023. And the European Parliament has endorsed Nigeria's candidate for the position of the Director General of the World Trade Organization, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. The Parliament said it screened the 2 remaining candidates in the WTO Director General race, Okonjo-Iweala and Ms. Yoo Myung-hee of South Korea, and is convinced that the Nigerian candidate has the energy and is well equipped for the job. So far, 79 out of the 164 states that comprise the WTO have endorsed Nigeria's first female finance and foreign minister for the job. And with that, we've come to the end of this edition of Business Express. Be informed that this and all previous episodes are available on YouTube on NTA's channel. You can also communicate with us on Twitter. The handle is @NTA News Now. And don't forget to use the hashtag BizX. Business Express returns on Monday at 3 p.m. I am Muplang Dakok. Please stay safe.